Vishaka, why don't you take over?
Thanks, Richard. So as Richard mentioned, I'll be talking about the toxicity control requirements in the municipal regional permit. So I'll go over a background on stormwater and pesticide pollution, some background on the regional permit, and specifically describe the pesticide control requirements in the municipal regional permit. So as you all know, pollutants entering the storm drain system are not treated. Anything that enters the storm drain flows directly to the local creeks and the San Francisco Bay. And everyday activities can cause stormwater pollution. It could be construction site runoff, it could be illegal dumping, it could be litter, or it could be pesticides, which can be carried into the storm drain system through irrigation or stormwater runoff. In the San Francisco Bay Area, stormwater discharges are regulated by the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board through implementation of the Municipal Regional Permit. The Municipal Regional Permit covers, covers 76 agencies in the Bay Area, including the counties of Santa Clara, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, and 2 agencies in Solano County. It includes requirements for controlling urban runoff pollutants such as litter, sediment, metals, pesticides. It also describes the programs that permittees, which is all the agencies that are covered by the permit, are required to implement. This could include business inspections, inspection of construction sites, public education and outreach, water quality monitoring, etc. And as Richard mentioned, the San Mateo Countywide Water Pollution Prevention Program, SMICWIP, assists the agencies in San Mateo County implement the requirements in the Municipal Regional Permit. So SMICWIP includes all cities and towns in San Mateo County, the County of San Mateo, and also the Flood Control District. So the permit includes many provisions, as I mentioned, and provision C9 of the permit talks about the pesticide describes the pesticide toxicity control requirements. Implementation guidance is provided through the SMICWIP Parks and Maintenance Work Group. And one of the major activities of this work group is to conduct this workshop annually. Richard chairs this work group and is a big help in putting this workshop together. So the current permit expired in December 2020. The Water Board is currently working on putting the new permit together. So we are in what is called an administrative extension. So essentially you are implementing the same requirements that you were implementing till December 2020. We'll implement those for another year. And the next permit is expected to go into effect on July 1, 2022. Erin, could you bring up the next poll? No, there was another one before that, not this. No. Sorry, I think we're having some issues with polling. So let me go over to the next slide. Sorry about that. So the MRP requires that all agencies have an integrated pest management policy, which kind of decides how your pesticide management program works. The requirement to have an IPM policy has been in place since I think the early 2000s. So all agencies have an IPM policy in place. So now you're just required to implement the IPM policy. You have to ensure that your municipal staff and the municipal contractors, both structural and landscape, are following the IPM policy. There are some, you're also supposed to have standard operating procedures that, again, municipal staff and municipal contractors need to follow. You have to track and report annually to the Water Board some pesticides that are called the pesticides of concern. And I will talk about them in a couple of slides. You also have to implement IPM and then report on 2 IPM strategies in each annual report. You're required to provide staff to municipal staff that apply pesticides. You have to provide them IPM training, make sure they're aware of the IPM policy and of the standard operating procedures. And then annually, you have to report the number of the staff that receive the training. Similarly, you have to ensure that municipal contractors implement IPM, and you have to monitor their activities to make sure they are following the policy. This is something you need to describe in the annual report that is submitted to the Water Board annually, how you're making sure that landscape and structural contractors, if you have any, how they're implementing IPM. Are they aware of the IPM policy? Are they following the IPM requirements? The permit also requires you to coordinate with the county ag commissioners. And we do that. We invite them to the IPM work group meetings. And they are a big help in putting together this workshop and getting units approved from DPR. So a big thanks to them. And we will hear a presentation by county ag staff in this workshop. And they'll talk about regulations and other things. The permit also requires you to conduct public education and outreach, which is mostly done at the county-wide level. If you visit the website Flows to Bay, there's a web page on pesticides and water quality, and all the activities that SMCWIP does are described in great detail here. So there's a program where you conduct point of purchase outreach at local stores. There's outreach to landscapers, outreach to structural pest control operators, outreach to residents. All of that is described in detail on this page. Now, going to the pesticides of concern, these are the active ingredients that are listed in the municipal regional permit as pesticides of concern. So they have been shown to have an impact on water quality. So municipal agencies that use them on municipal properties are required to report the quantities used in each annual report. So I would recommend that you take a look at your agency's IPM policy to see what kind of guidance is in place. Some agencies have a blanket prohibition on using these pesticides. Others kind of follow a decision tree to decide if they can be used as needed, because IPM does allow the use of pesticides. So if you're able to demonstrate that other techniques did not work, it is okay to use pesticides, including these. But remember that these have to be documented and reported to the Water Board each year in the annual report. As I mentioned, the new permit is on its way, and we've seen the internal draft that Water Board has put together. It's only out to municipal agencies for review right now, and looks like neonicotinoids will be added as a pesticide of concern to the permit. That means if you use them, you'll have to keep track of the quantity that's being used and report it in the annual report to the board. You'll need to document kind of what other IPM techniques were used, and then why your agency chose to use all of these pesticides of concern. You're also required to provide a link to the IPM policy and the standard operating procedures to the board. So this is a requirement that will happen once in the permit term, and then you have to let them know if anything changed. I think that's all I have in my presentation. I don't see any Q&A.